Testing, 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 testing.
Testing. Testing.
Say something other than testing. I'm testing.
Testicles.
He got baptized by a streetcar.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
Number 7, I think
You
it
sure?
is. I think it's number 7. So, it's been a little while. We've been doing a lot of racing lately. Been
For a
traveling all over the place. Finally, it's been a long winter. Been cooped up here in Ohio, and we really it went from nothing to a lot really quick. We raced Texas, Memphis, just North Carolina last weekend. So we've been all over the place. What do you got on your notes today?
Where's your notes?
I've got my notes. I can't read yours.
We got the engine back. We can start there.
Yeah, we picked the engine up from Performance Research in Columbus, Ohio.
I think
Joe
it's
Coben.
Westerville, actually.
Whatever. Joe Coben did an excellent job on it. He did all the machine work. He assembled the short block. Actually, we put the heads on too.
Put the whole thing together.
You guys saw that in the last video we did on the return of the small block Chevy. I think I posted that a couple weeks ago. But after that, our first race that we attended was Texas 2K. So we went all the way down to Houston, Texas. Never been to Texas. It was a pretty eye-opening experience.
Texas is all right, but I don't. Houston sucks.
I like Houston.
Houston's terrible.
It's a beautiful city. He doesn't understand the exits, and it's like here in Ohio, all the exits are on the right side, and in Houston they can be on the left, in the middle, right.
And then a left turn doesn't necessarily mean a left turn. A left turn could mean a U-turn. A left turn could mean a left turn immediately. It could mean after you get 60 feet out in the intersection, then you turn left. And if you miss an exit in Houston, it's a freaking excursion to get back on track. There's no such thing as just missing a simple turn in Houston. If you miss your exit or you miss a turn, it's a 20 to 30, maybe even an hour excursion out and around the horn to get back.
And he tends to do that a lot because he can't seem to listen to the GPS at all. So
you turn the GPS on, and you get us started, and then you shut the GPS off so that you can fiddle around with your phone.
That's fake news. It's not.
It happened last night on the way home.
I'm talking about Houston.
It's everywhere. It doesn't matter where we're at. That's what you do. Whatever.
Houston's nice. There's a lot of racing spots. It's not like Ohio. There was 5 racing spots within the same 5 square miles in Houston where we were at for one of the meets, and there's not 5 racing spots in Ohio total that you could sit at and race. So, I mean, there's a lot of action to be had. There's a lot of fast cars there.
Very fast cars.
Texas 2K is like the Super Bowl, they call it, of street racing, and it really is.
It really
I've never been somewhere where I've seen so many people that are just there for a race, and it's all over the town, and this town is freaking huge.
Like like our hometown of Pataskala. You could take Houston, and it would probably take up 2 counties here in Ohio where we live.
Yeah, probably.
Honestly. Like, we could drive from one end of our county to the other, and that's just like a fourth of Houston.
Yeah,
It's
Houston
insane.
is huge, and it's all. The roads are insane. The highways are insane. Just the architecture that goes into that city is just nuts.
Like here in Ohio, you have a main highway. You have a main highway, right? 2-lane divided highway. and you'll have an exit, and then you just get off there and go someplace. And that's not how Houston is. You've got a main highway, 2-lane divided or 4-lane divided highway, and then on each side you've got a 4-lane divided highway. And then when they run out of room there, they build one on top of you that you exit right up the middle of the main highway in the center. You exit right up the middle and go up a ramp, and then it splits in the middle of the air. Piss on that, man. I don't know. That's not
I don't
my
like
thing.
all the tolls. We're probably going to have like $2,000 wrapped up in toll fees.
God, I hope
and
not.
I'm going to go ahead and give that to you since you were driving most of the time, and you can pay that. So is that fine?
I'm not paying them. That's your
Okay.
deal.
Well, it's not me. Not gonna be
They got your license plate.
Well,
They're sending that shit to you.
You were driving.
Prove it.
So.
I got tired of that toll shit. I just kept driving around them.
So anyways, when we got to Houston, I think we left Wednesday from Ohio. We drove straight there, didn't stop at all.
We went down to Louisiana because there was that huge bomb windstorm thing going on, and we didn't want to get caught in that. So we went south, clear down to New Orleans, and then cut across to Houston, come in through Baytown. It was a nice trip. I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, so we got to Houston Thursday afternoon and met up with a guy. And he showed us actually the first race spot that we were going to be able to race at. It was,
Edward?
Edgar.
Edgar?
Edgar Cantu.
Cantu, yeah.
Good dude, man. He
Super nice
He met
guy.
up with us and he showed us around the town.
And we don't know him from Adam.
No, he knew us from Facebook, and he showed up out there, and he showed us some spots, and he showed us where to go, how to get around the traffic, and
We got our tire, showed us where to take our tire. We had a flat on. We stopped at Hooters, actually. We stopped at Hooters for lunch, and really nice Hooters, actually. That was probably the prettiest waitress we've ever had at any Hooters. Was that in Texas or was that in Louisiana?
I don't know. I think it was in Louisiana.
Pretty little blonde girl. But anyway, stopped at Hooters, and we came out. And I told Billy, I said, you should jump out and take some video of us pulling out from Hooters with the truck and trailer for the podcast or for whatever. And I get in a truck, and he goes out to video the truck pulling out across the front of Hooters parking lot, and he notices that there's a flat on the trailer. So evidently we had hit something and got something in a tire, and it went flat as we were in there eating dinner. And when we came out, he noticed the trailer tire. So we jacked the trailer up, put the spare on, and then headed on down to Texas. And anyway, Edward, is it Edward?
Edgar.
Edgar. I'm sorry. Are you sure it's Edgar?
It's Edgar.
All right. I just knew Cantu. But anyway, Edgar met us there, and when we got to Baytown, we stopped at a little car wash to blow all the road grime and clean the truck and trailer up. And anyway, Edgar met us there at that car wash, and I asked him, he told us where all the spots were and what was probably going to happen, explained to us where the track was. And so we went to see the first spot, and I asked him, I said, man, is there someplace we can get a tire fixed? And there was a little tire shop right there near the track at an intersection. Guys come out. I mean, it's like 6:30 in the evening, and I figure everybody's closing. And Ed's like, nah, they're Mexicans here, man. They're 24/7. They did, man. They hooked us right up. $15, patched the tire, and of course didn't do us any good because we ruined the wheel after that.
So that night we had dinner with the one and only Lumpy.
Yeah, we had dinner with Lumpy
and Richard Garcia.
Yep.
And a lot of the guys that were going to be racing in the cash days that happened on Saturday.
Yep.
And that was our first time meeting Lumpy, and it was a treat, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, that was the first time we'd ever met Chris in person. I've talked to him here and there on the internet, but Richard Garcia and everybody was 660 Street and Chris, just, man, it was like we met. It was like a family reunion for people we've never even met. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
how do you
see him
feel
on Facebook for a long time, but once you actually meet him, it's like different.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. We sat down at the table, and I sat down there at the end, and Chris come around there and sat down beside me, and I was like, I mean, I've seen this guy's Instagram. So I wasn't sure, you know. I mean, I've never met him in person. He's awesome. He's
Follow
a great
Lumpy
person.
on Instagram.
Yeah,
You'll
if you want to see
what we're talking about.
if you want to see the best memes ever, and feel completely, I don't know how to feel about his Instagram.
I don't know. You just got to kind of see it for yourself. Lumpy doesn't give a crap about anything.
No,
He gives no F's.
he just wants to street race. He wants to be out in the streets with us, and that's all
He doesn't
really
care what anybody thinks.
I think he cares a little bit about what his wife thinks. He did have some conversations with me what I was allowed to say and not say about his dietary concerns there at the dinner table that night. There's stuff he's not supposed to be eating. Bread.
There's some bread consumed.
So he definitely cares about what his wife thinks, but outside of that, I don't think he gives a shit what anybody else thinks. His wife must keep him under control.
Lumpy has been doing street races, and he's been in the streets since the 1980s, I think.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody that really knows what's going on in the streets, it's him. You know, he's been doing it a long time.
And you know, when we went, what was the name of that steakhouse we went to?
Perry's
Steakhouse. God, that was good stuff. Chris likes to make fun of the way I get my steaks, because I like A1 sauce and I like them burned. I like them extremely well done.
You're disgusting.
What's your deal today, man? You're grumpy with me.
That's disgusting.
It's not
You're supposed
disgusting.
your steak is supposed to have flavor.
It
It's
does
not
have
supposed to be
flavor.
like beef jerky.
I like beef jerky, and I like
You
my
should probably
steaks
just
well
eat
done.
Beef jerky then.
I would, but they didn't have any on the damn menu. We went through this. Chris said the same thing.
So after dinner, we went to a little 8-car shootout that
Right.
they put on there in Houston,
That
and
was-
I decided to kind of sit back and watch that one and see how it went down and see how they got down in Texas, how the police were, and
Plus, we kind of wanted to. There was cars in that shootout that was entered into cash days, and rather than jump right in with both feet, we decided to let the jails fill up first. This was what, Thursday night?
yeah,
Thursday night. Was it Thursday?
yes,
Yeah. Okay. So it was Thursday night. We didn't want to end up in jail before we got a chance to race in Lumpy's cash days. So we figured we'd let the cops warm up the jail cells and get the cruisers filled up before we attempted to unload the trailer and unload the truck. But plus, there was cars entered in that shootout that were going to be in the cash days. And to be honest, I kind of wanted to sit back and just see, because I've seen some of these cars on 660 Street. You know, we've seen them on YouTube, we've seen them on Facebook and Instagram. But, you know, we've never seen some of these cars in person, like the Entertainer, that white Camaro, fast car. So we just kind of wanted to sit back and take it in and watch how Lumpy flags.
he didn't flag that.
Well,
night.
Richard was
was
flagging that
flagging.
night. But we just wanted to sit back and kind of watch, take it in, see what these guys are really like, see how they run the operation, and see what these cars are really doing on a real street, you know, where we can clearly see it's a virgin spot. And, you know, we just wanted to take it in and see what's going on. So we did that Thursday night. There was one car might have allegedly jumped the curb, ended up out in a parking lot. But cops busted that up a couple times. We ran around all night trying to get that done, and they did finally get it finished up, but it took forever. There was a lot of police out that night.
So after Thursday night, what did we do Friday? Friday, we did some grudge racing.
Let's see, we slept in till about noon, and then we went and got brunch with Lumpy and Richard And then we may have snuck off to do a little testing privately. Right?
Friday, we went to a meet. It was at
Right.
Mark Banner's shop.
Right.
And kind of got some inside information there where we were going to be racing on Saturday.
Right.
And it just so happened that they were racing the night before at the same place. And there was a lot of grudge action going on, so we decided to head in there. Dad wasn't very, he didn't think it was a good idea, but I knew we were going to be racing there. He didn't think we were going to race there, but we did. So we went over there and we busted off a race with Jeepers Creepers. And,
That was cool.
I went up to Lumpy when we got there, and I was like, hey, man, find me somebody to race, because I kept asking people and nobody would step up. And
Hey, tell them about that white Camaro, that kid.
so I went up. There was a little F-body Camaro there, and there was 4 or 5 guys standing around it. I went up to them, and I was like, hey, man, you guys want a grudge race? And they're like, yeah, sure, give me the back tire and the hit. It's fine. I said, okay, you got it. And they said, what? They didn't know what to say after that. They didn't expect me to give it to them.
Yeah.
They were like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. So I was like, all right. So I went up to Lumpy and I asked him, who do you think will be able to, grudge race tonight? Who will step up? And he went straight to Jeepers, and he said these guys are always down. So we grudge raced Jeepers, and it was a crazy race. Jeepers jumped a little bit.
That was one of the wildest street races I've ever seen in my life.
Jeepers jumped a little bit, and then I left really hard. I come right up next to him at about 150, 200 feet, and he got sideways, kind of came in my lane a little bit. I lifted just really fast, got over to make sure he wasn't going to hit me, and I stood back in it and drove away. And then the cops showed up shortly after that. So we got one grudge race off that night, one hit on the spot that we were going to be racing on Saturday. And we went back, and Saturday morning
Was cash days.
So Saturday morning, we got up, but I missed my alarm. Eric, our buddy, actually called me so that we could get up and get going. We were in a hurry because we were going to be about 20 minutes late, and messed up our fender exiting the hotel parking lot.
We messed up a lot of shit. Listen, so Dingus here, his alarm goes off. He hits snooze, doesn't get up, as usual. And he did exactly what I knew he was going to do eventually. He was going to put us in a real bad spot because he doesn't pay attention. He doesn't get up in the morning. Remember I've told you 100 times, one of these days you're going to put yourself in a bad spot rushing someplace, and it's going to cost you. And it finally did. We go to pull out of the parking lot, and the hotel has all the entrances and exits gated off. And we don't have time to go driving around that morning through all the cars parked in the lot. So I jumped out of the truck and I ran out there and opened the gate. And
you threw the gate open.
We're in a damn hurry.
You threw the gate open. It bounced back as I was pulling through, and it caught the fender of the truck, and it messed the truck up. It almost knocked the truck off the trailer.
It did knock the truck off the trailer, but the problem is your damn window tint, which I've told you 1,000 times, you need to get the hell off that truck because you can't see shit. You can't see a damn thing out of that truck because the windows are tinted too dark. So I throw the gate open. I didn't know he was going to jam the gas pedal and just drive right to it as soon as I did it. But I swing the gate open. Dingus here jumps on the gas, drives through the gate, and I'm standing back. I can't see what's going on the other side. All of a sudden I hear bang, and the S10 falls off the trailer to one side. And the gate, it's just a steel pole, two steel poles that swing together, and the damn thing, like it was coming back at the truck as the truck was coming at it, and it jammed in a wheel well on the passenger side. Barely missed the front tire, but it jammed in the wheel well, and the force of the truck pulling forward and the way the gate swung, it shoved the truck clear off the trailer. The driver's side front wheel fell off the trailer. He stops. I get around the other side of the trailer. It's a disaster. We unstrap the S10. I get the jack out of the back of the pickup truck, jack the S10 up, get the wheel, the driver's wheel, up high enough to where we can slide the S10 back over on the trailer deck, set it down, retie the truck down, and we head to cash days. And we were late getting there. But
they ran 5 or 6 pairs at the cash days, and then the cops showed up. I drove the truck down the road so that we could get out of there as quick as possible. Then we loaded up at a different location and headed to the next spot. Got to the next spot about an hour and a half away, and we were about second or third pair at the next spot. We raced Craig Stevens out of Oklahoma City.
we were late getting there, too.
Because you had to use the bathroom.
I had to go to the damn dude, I didn't even get time because you overslept and missed your alarm. I didn't get time to do anything. I didn't get time to use the bathroom, so I had to go to the bathroom by the time we got to the second spot. And like I said, it's freaking Texas. When you miss a turn or you go someplace just 5 miles out of the way, it takes a 50-mile trip to get back. So we're late. We're like dead late. We're afraid that they skipped us. It was that late. We literally pull up through the crowd at the second spot. I jump out, throw the ramps down. Billy backs the truck off the trailer, and it's sitting there warming up, checks the tires, and literally, I don't even think you had your jacket on or nothing. We just pulled right up there and lit that truck up, and we ran Capone first round. Broke the transmission, which I didn't know at the time, but when he did his burnout, he came out in second gear. It rolled a sprag, which that's the whole reason we took transmission out a long time ago. I was afraid that was going to happen. It happened anyway. So he rolls the sprag coming out of the burnout. He doesn't know it, but evidently Capone had trouble. He lit the tires, and then I think I saw where he broke crankshaft. Might have over-revved it or something, but he broke a crankshaft, so Capone couldn't make a full pass. And it just so happens that the truck couldn't make a full pass because he didn't have any second gear.
I mean, I made a full pass.
You made a full.
I put it in high gear, and I went through the finish line under power.
All right, but he missed second gear, didn't have it, and actually it burnt the clutches up in the transmission. All the forward drive clutches were burnt up in the transmission after that pass. So, let's see what happened then.
The cops showed up
came.
again.
Cops came to the second spot.
We had to leave. Waited an hour, came back, started racing again. I decided to run second round, even with the transmission messed up.
Right.
I decided to run second round, even with the transmission messed up. And we were out on the guy, left good, out on the guy. I tried to go from first to third, and it just wouldn't shift fast enough. It kind of revved up, and
I think
had
it
to
burnt
let out of it.
Yeah, I think it burnt the clutches up first round. I think it just melted the. So
Pretty much all I had was first gear, and we ended up losing by about a car length with only first gear, and I had barely had high gear, so.
it is what it is. So we lost that. We lost second round. Kind of depressed. I mean, we went through a lot of, we tried to take extra precautions to make sure we didn't have a transmission or an engine failure down there, but we still did. And it wasn't our transmission builder's fault. It was strictly our fault because
It's just not, it didn't have good enough parts in it. I couldn't afford to put a good drum in it at the time with
Right.
building the engine at the same time.
right.
It had it had maybe, what was it, a 4L80 drum?
Yeah, it
steel.
just had a steel 4L80 drum and a 34 element sprag is what it had.
Not good enough for 29-inch tires on concrete doing
Right.
hard burnouts.
Yeah, because I mean, we've only been on 28s. That's all we've ever raced on is 28s, and we've never raced on concrete. So, and one of the things about Texas, I mean, the concrete hooks good, but down track it's very bumpy, and so you've got to have some front end travel in it. You've got to have some ballast in the back to be able to put down enough power down track to run with these guys, because these are fast cars. There's no question these are fast cars. So in order for us to compete with that truck, we had to run a little extra ballast in the back, which makes it hard to do a burnout. And as soon as that truck would come out of the burnout, it would try to hook. You couldn't use high gear hardly at all. So we struggled. We rolled a sprag. It was our fault. There's nothing else I can say. It was just our fault. You know, we gotta come up with a better plan for doing our burnout down there if we're gonna run on concrete on 29s. So we lost second round. Then what? What'd we do then?
We watched the rest of the cash days. They got down to 2 cars, and I'm not going to spoil what happened because I've still got to release the movie.
Right.
But they made it down to 2 cars. We left, and then that night, you know, we kind of just went back to the hotel, chilled out. We got dinner, and kind of upset about everything that happened. Stayed in. There was some racing going on. We elected not to go out.
We were exhausted. I was. I mean, I'm older than dirt, by the way. So, I mean, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I'd been up like 3 or 4 days at that point with 2 to 3 hours of sleep maximum per night. And I'm just, my back and my legs, my ankles, and my hips and my knees and everything's just sore and tired. So I stayed in. I told Billy if he wanted to go out, he'd go do something, but he decided to stay in.
I edited some pictures from the race, and I fell asleep at like 2 in the morning and got up the next day and heard some bad news. There was an accident there. Not anything that we were involved in or anybody that we knew, but woke up to some bad news about that, and we kind of just, you know, at that point it was Sunday, and we were ready to go home. We loaded everything up, left, and we were headed to Fort Worth because Chris Hamilton had texted us and told us that he wanted us to come have dinner and you chat with him. So we headed towards Fort Worth, and on our way there,
well, he had invited us to stop on the way down, and we took the other way because of that windstorm. We didn't see him on the way down. So when he asked us if we were going to still stop and see him on the way home, I said, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to miss out on that. So we went up to Fort Worth. We're on our way to Fort Worth, and Joe, what's his name?
Watson.
Joe Watson, the guy that owns Prime, that wild all-wheel drive LS twin-turboed full-size Chevy pickup truck. We come pulling up on him, or he pulled up on us, rolled the window down, said hi, and I don't know. What did he do? He messaged you or something after that?
I told him we were going to Fort Worth because we were.
Oh yeah. Because he lives up there.
At that point, he was like, "Hey, I live in Fort Worth and I have a transmission shop. You guys got a broke transmission. Why don't you take it to our shop? We'll fix it up, and then we can grudge race tonight."
Yeah. So that planted the seed. That planted the seed. So, we told him, we'll get with you. Well, Billy was trying to figure out if he had the parts that we need to fix it, because we didn't want to put another 34 element or a stock sprag back in it. We wanted to put preferably an aluminum drum and a Pro Mod sprag in it. So we told him we'd get back with him. We were going to go have dinner with Chris and Kayla. So we did that. And while we're out to dinner with Chris and Kayla and Cooper, told Chris what we were kind of planning on doing, and he offered to help us pull transmission out of the truck at his shop, and offered us some help in the way of Mr. Wendell. What's his name? Wendell.
Mr. Wendell's Performance.
Mr. Wendell. Wendell Dunaway. Man, I can't believe this happened. But so we're sitting at dinner, and my phone's blowing up. There's people texting me, and I don't even know who they are. I've just got their number. I don't even know who I'm talking to. And Chris finally just pulls his phone out. He's like, "Let me take care of this. Here, this guy's going to text you." And it was Mr. Wendell. And we decided, when we got done with dinner at B-Dubs down there, we were going to go back, and we helped Chris pull the rear end out of his orange car, because it was already on the lift. He was trying to take the rear end out of it. So we got the rear end out of the orange car and set it on some dollies. Got it off the lift and shoved it over to the side. Unloaded the S10, brought it in, put it on the lift, and we start taking the Turbo 400 out of the truck. We got it out, about midnight? It was about midnight. And keep in mind, Chris has got to work the next day. It's a work day for him. This is Sunday night. And I can't thank him enough. Took us to dinner, helped us pull transmission out, got us hooked up with Mr. Wendell. About midnight, we get the 400 out, get it loaded in the pickup truck, unhook the trailer, and what is it, about 35-minute, 40-minute drive to Mr. Wendell's from.
Yeah.
So we go see Mr. Wendell. Wendell takes it apart, and all the high gear direct drive clutches are burnt out of it. The sprag's rolled in it. And he happened to have a Pro Mod sprag, a brand new aluminum drum. He put some other little pieces and parts in there. He put a adjustable pressure regulator valve, boost valve, in the pump so that we can turn up the line pressure just by dropping the pan. You can reach up in there and turn it. And he showed us how to adjust the line pressure. But so he explained to us that we should probably turn the line pressure up for the amount of power that the engine makes. So we turn the line pressure up, put this thing all back together, go back to Boosted shop, and he's in bed asleep. It's what, 3 o'clock in the morning?
At that
About
point, it was about 2.
2:30 in the morning. So 2:30 in the morning, we pull back into Chris's house, back up to the shop. I had to call him because he's asleep. He didn't hear us pull in. He comes out he's just exhausted. It's a work night, 2:30 in the morning. He comes out, helps us put the Turbo 400 back in, fixed a couple little things with the cross member. The cross member was a little bit off. Helped us fix a few little things on the truck that needed to be taken care of while we had it on the lift. And we put the exhaust system back on it, set it back on the ground, fill it with fluid, checked it, everything worked, loaded it back up, and we were out of there probably, 4 in the morning?
Yeah. Yep. Then we headed to a little spot. It was a really, really good spot.
Oh, my God.
One of the best spots that I've ever raced on as far as traction goes.
And Chris told us that spot it'll take everything you can throw at it. And, Chris has got good stuff.
That's the thing about Joe Watts and that guy with the Prime truck.
Yeah.
He's a stand-up dude. He offered to fix our transmission, and then he took us to the best spot. Knowing he's all-wheel drive, and he has an advantage on a shitty spot, he took us to the best spot that you could find anywhere.
Yeah.
And
he wanted
a fair race.
He wanted a good race. He wasn't trying to put us in a bad position, even though he could have. He wanted to see where he stood with that truck. So he flat out told us, I don't want to take you to a junk spot. I want you on the best spot. I want you to pick whatever lane you want. And I want the best race you can give me. I want to see where I stand with it. So
that's really respectable.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That guy, in all honesty, we didn't meet anybody from Texas that wasn't 100% stand up. Just wonderful people. Can't thank Mr. Wendell enough, and Chris Hamilton and Kayla Morton and little Cooper. He was out there helping too. Can't forget Mr. Cooper.
So we went out there and we raced Prime, and we won the race. We had been up till 4:30 in the morning at that point when we raced, and put all that time into putting the transmission back in and getting it fixed up and all that for basically a grudge race for a low dollar, and just to do it just because we love it.
And it wasn't because Joe wanted low dollar; it was just because we were out of money.
No, he said anything, 100, 500, whatever. We raced for $100 and, pride. So we went out there. I pretty much had, $100 and $200 left after fixing the transmission. So, we went out there and we raced, and on the way home, we stopped in Memphis. And then we raced.
Well, first we stopped at the truck stop and slept for about 2 hours in the truck so we could even make it to Memphis.
Yeah, we just slept in the truck. And we went down to Memphis. So we saw it was on our way home.
Up to Memphis.
Yeah, we went up to Memphis because it was on our way home. And I put out a post on Facebook, seeing if anybody in Memphis would like to race since we'll be going through the area. and Brian Britt messaged me and said to call him. So I called Brian. We set up a little race there. Had a few other people messaging me wanting to race, but they were kind of just, I don't know if they were very serious about it or what was going on, but it kind of fell through. And a lot of people in that area, they were saying that the spots were real hot and that nobody would be able to get a race off.
Well, they probably are, but
being on this was a Monday, remember? Monday afternoon, and we're out there trying to street race.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, actually.
So, we went there, we busted it off. We figured we could get it off. It was a Monday. There's not going to be anybody out there. If it was a Friday or Saturday night, it would be a different story, but
right.
Since it was a Monday, we went out there and we got a race off with Beetlejuice. That guy is A1. He's a stand-up dude. We had an issue the first run. For whatever reason, I didn't stage correctly, and I expected to be bumped in, and I had already bumped, and they didn't bump me the second time.
I think it was just because you're exhausted.
I was pretty much exhausted, and he left. Light came on. He left. He drilled the light. It was clean, and I didn't even leave the starting line because I didn't know what had happened. And then he came back and he's like, "Man, what happened? Did you break?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I don't know what happened. I messed up, or I saw something wrong." And
you thought that he jumped, so you sat there because we're in Memphis. I mean, but that's not really what they were trying to do. They were trying to flashlight start.
Clean. And he's like, "Listen, man, I don't want to take your money like that. Let's run it again." So we ran it again, and it was a close drag race. It was after we left. I don't think either of us moved on each other at all. It was pretty much just he 60-footed, just maybe 100th or 200ths of a second harder, and it stayed that way the whole race. And I took that as, that's pretty good for as fast as that truck is and being on their road that they race on a lot.
All right, I mean, that's their spot. He gave us lane choice, which I thought the left lane was better, and Billy didn't pay any attention. He's half asleep. He's like a zombie. He's just walking around, just going through the motions. And I would have liked to have had the left lane, but he didn't pay any attention. He just pulled up in the right lane, which it's fine. But
I usually take the right lane at any spot because there's more rubber usually in the right if it's a divided lane. People don't like to test in the suicide lane, so I mean, I usually I'll sit in the right lane if it's a divided road.
I get it. But I mean, if you would have paid attention like I do, and you would have walked out there and looked at it like I did, you could clearly see that there was a lot of dirt tracked out in the right lane. In the left lane there wasn't, because what happens is it's a dead end road and everybody goes out there and there's gravel on the berm on the right hand side on both sides. But if you're in the right lane and you pull off like you did on the right hand side of the road and you go to leave, they just swing out onto the starting line and they track dirt. And that's what I saw when we were there. You could clearly see that there had been quite a few people that had gone out there and turned around, and there was some dirty tire tracks out there. So if it would have been me, which I was asleep too, I was actually literally asleep until we pulled up next to Brian Britt in a parking lot. I was just out of it. We were both out of it. But I would have rather had the left lane, but it was whatever. It was a good race. I mean, I'm not making excuses.
You couldn't. I mean, that's a fast truck.
Oh, it's absolutely the fastest. My personal opinion, if you're talking about small tire street race car, not tube chassis car, Brian Britt has the fastest small tire street race car in Memphis. I promise you that the truck. And I'm not just saying that because he beat us. No, I'm being honest.
Facts. I mean, I don't think anybody can mess with it.
I don't think anybody.
If you want to try, I'm sure you could send him a message, and he'll be glad to race you because he's real. And
he's legit. He's a very nice person.
Race, and he does it not just for cameras. He goes out there and races just because he loves it, just like we do.
That's right. And he didn't know us from Adam. We didn't. I mean, we kind of knew who he was, but he didn't.
He said he had watched some of the podcasts.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I didn't think he knew anything about us. I didn't think he knew who we were or anything. So I mean, he treated us the same as I felt he treated us the same as anybody else that he knows is serious about street racing. He was good to us, and straight up guy. That's a fast truck. It's a super, super fast truck.
I was a little worried because our alternator belt came off, and we were losing battery, and actually my bump box stopped working because of it. So when I lined up, I was a little bit behind the line, and I was like, oh crap, you know, my bump box isn't working. At what point is this fuel pump going to stop? I got an electric fuel pump, and I was afraid I was going to burn the engine up. It was pretty scary.
But you, let's be honest. I mean, that's the fastest. That was absolute, without question, in my opinion, that was the fastest pass you've ever put on the street anywhere.
I mean, it was the most power I've tried to put down on the street.
Dude, I watched the video. I watched it in person, and I'm telling you, those trucks were hauling ass.
That road in Memphis has come a long way since they started filming there.
Right. It's not the same road that it was a year or two ago.
They've been dumping some prep on it, I think.
Yeah, there's been people out there testing, pouring prep on it, and doing burnouts out there. So the road has gotten a lot better than it was a year or two ago. So we're not superheroes or anything. We just happen to show up there. They're not even filming on that spot anymore. They're on a new spot for this next season. But so Brian Britt, badass truck, stupid fast, super nice guy, straight up. Can't say enough nice things about Brian. And so that was it. So we headed home after that. So now we're on our way home from Memphis. We felt pretty good when we left Memphis. We felt like we put a solid pass down. And Brian told us, which I'm sure he's being honest, but Brian told us that's the first time anything that's not tube chassis set next to that little Toyota and didn't have 3 cars put on it right off the hit. So we felt pretty good, even though we didn't beat him. We felt pretty good with the hit. We felt pretty good going home knowing the transmission was back. We didn't have to pull transmission out when we got home, so that made us happy. That was a highlight going home. So on our way home, I'm scrolling through Facebook. Of course, we're looking for some place to go next weekend, and we stumble across this no prep, no excuses. What's the name of that track? Wilkesboro Dragway. So we're like, And they'd scrape the track bare. It's bare concrete. That's what we've been racing on all week, was bare concrete. But it was a 28-10-5 race, and we were on 29s. So we came home, took all 4 wheels off the truck, bled the brakes. The brakes were acting a little soft. We bled the brakes, fixed any little leaks. We've tightened up the alternator bracket, got the proper belt for the alternator to keep that from flying off. Dug our 28-10-5s out, stuck the 28s back on the truck. Just went over the truck real good with a fine-tooth comb, make sure everything was good. And we went out and made a test hit on our 28s. It was fast. Made sure the tires were still good. They were. And we loaded up and headed for Wilkesboro, Friday night after work?
Yeah.
So
in Wilkesboro, we show up and the facility's beautiful.
Oh my God. It's like Wilkesboro Dragway is like a drag strip built out of a campground. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. The seating is awesome, nice and shaded along one side with the tower.
I love tracks with
trees.
I think they've got some.
One side of the track is kind of built into the side of a hill, and a lot of the seating is like right against the hill, and it's nice and shaded.
It's just an awesome facility. I can't wait to go back. I would go back there to race. I don't care if it's bracket racing, heads up racing. I don't care what it is. If it's at Wilkesboro, I want to go because that place is beautiful. It's like it's a miniature Bristol. Would that be a good analogy?
Yeah.
A miniature Bristol. If you've ever been to Bristol, that's like the creme de la creme of drag race facilities. But this is like a miniature Bristol Motor Speedway or Bristol Dragway, just with a lot less shutdown.
So we showed up there. Eric went with us, and we draw for first round, and we ended up drawing the Tesla Racing Channel guy. He's got a little white Mustang, and we had to draw a second time because they had too many chips in the bag. So we redrew, and then Eric ended up getting that guy, and then I ended up getting the fastest guy there, or one of the fastest guys there.
He's probably the fastest. I mean, absolutely the fastest.
And Eric
guy
won the race, but
Jamie
he had the fastest car probably.
Jamie, what's his last name?
Jamie Umberger.
Umberger.
So we draw Jamie Umberger first round, and we were 5th pair. The track was completely bare. There was no concrete on, or no rubber on it at all, and they had just ground the concrete smooth, so it was kind of slippery. And Eric went out first pair. He won his round, and I ended up losing. I went out about 500 feet. I was in front by maybe half a fender, and then it got real loose very quick. White smoked the tires, and I think it came off the concrete and onto the asphalt or something, and it just didn't like it.
I thought you were going to crash it.
I'm sure there's a video somewhere of it, but
it was terrible. From the starting line, it scared me to death. I thought for sure that was the end of the truck.
And Jamie laid down his best pass of the day, first thing right off the trailer. And,
he had a Cinderella story pass right off the trailer, and
he put us on the trailer, and nothing to say there. He beat us. He made
fair and square. He just flat out beat us.
He made a better pass, and he just won. So we kind of focused from then on getting Eric into the finals and getting him a win. So Dad helped him pour his puddle, the rest of the day. We helped him with some tuning advice. He came back after first round, and he's like, because we were getting time slips that day, and he came back after first round, and he's like, hey, what'd you run? And I told him what I ran, and he's like, oh God, I need to turn mine up. So he turned his up. And his first pass was significantly slower than what he ran in the finals, and he worked at that thing. And
over a half a second slower.
He worked at that thing, and he dialed it in all himself. He tuned the boost ramp in, and he figured out what he needed to do to get to the finals. And then from there, in the finals,
we basically told him what his, because he ended up in the final with Jamie Umberger, who had beat us first round, and I watched first round, and Jamie was A to B until the very last second. I think he got loose too. But his first round pass was phenomenal. It was the fastest pass anybody had made there all weekend, and he was right off the trailer. So based on our first round pass beside Jamie, and knowing what our 60-foot was, and knowing that Jamie has a car that can run right with the truck off the trailer with our 60-foot, we pretty much knew where Eric needed to be 60-foot wise to run with Umberger in the final.
And mile an hour wise too.
And mile an hour wise, because we knew what we mile an hour, we knew about what Jamie had mile an hour, and we knew what Eric had been 60-footing and mile an houring, and we knew that it wasn't going to make it. We had to turn the car up. So each round as we went, Eric was turning it up a little bit. But when we got to the final and we knew we had Umberger, we knew we knew what 60-foot he was going to have to go.
He had to 60-foot a tenth faster to win that, and he did.
He did it. We told him, dude.
He improved his 60-foot by a tenth of a second, and he ran the best mile an hour all day that he had run.
I think Eric ran the most mile an hour of anybody at that event.
He laid a damn near perfect pass down. He had a couple pops come in, right out, maybe 100 foot out. I think his electronics, he's just trying to get all that stuff sorted out.
I knew, listen, when he came in and did the burnout in the final, I poured his puddle. He lined himself up perfectly in the groove for his burnout. That's the first major thing that he did, absolutely perfect. When he pulled, listen, these races don't start at the tree. They start as you pull into the burnout box, because everything you do from the time you fire that car up in the staging lanes to pull up to do your burnout, that's when your race starts. And he did it absolutely perfect. He pulled that car right into the burnout box. He pulled it right up here where I told him to stop. It was perfectly lined in the groove, the tire tracks that were already down on the track. I poured his puddle. His burnout was absolutely perfectly straight. He did absolutely the most beautiful job of the burnout in that final round I'd seen anybody do all day. It was perfectly straight, right in the groove. I walked up and grabbed his steering wheel, and I'm backing him back in his tracks. And I said, "Oh my God, you got this, guy. You got this, man." I said, "Your tracks are perfectly clean. You're backed perfectly straight on the tire marks." I said, "This thing's going to go, Eric. Hang on. It's going to go." And it did. It was a tenth faster in a 60 foot. And I think he put about a half a car on Umberger right off the line.
He put a car and a half on him.
Was it that much?
And he won by like a car.
Wow. So congratulations to Eric. I was so happy to be part of it, to help him, because he's been through so much. Oh my God.
He had been through a lot just trying to get that car going, and fighting a lot of different issues. Had to take the transmission out.
Yeah, he had our transmission in it.
The transmission that was going to go in the Nova, he put it in his car for Texas, and then left it in there for North Carolina the next weekend. He fought so many different issues in Texas, drove all the way there, and he basically made 1 or 2 passes that weekend, and none of them were any good. And
2,000 plus miles back to, from here to Texas.
Thousands of dollars spent.
Oh.
And
no sleep for days.
Yeah. And it's finally starting to pay off.
He got stranded for 4 hours along the road with no alternator belt.
It's starting to finally pay off for him, and we couldn't be more proud of him
and happy for him. I mean, it sucks that we lost first round.
He's going to win a lot of races this year. He's just starting to get it figured out, and if that thing, it should hold together, he's going to be tough to beat. He's going to win a lot of races.
If he's got me lining him up in his tracks, y'all's in trouble. People don't understand how important that is, to have somebody good on your team that can help you with the burnout, pour your pedal, line you up in the tracks, and not screw it up.
You want to explain how you do that?
Do you really want to get into that on this one? I mean, that might lead into a long...
Yeah.
I don't want to draw this out. Maybe the next one, because we've been talking about it. We've been talking about doing some things like that. I think the next podcast we'll get into covering. I mean, I think we'll get into that on the next podcast. I think this one's already going to be plenty long enough, and I don't want to get into it. But if you're still listening to us jabber, the next podcast, I think I'm going to go into some technical things on how to tune suspension and tire pressure, and how to properly do a burnout, and how to teach your crew members the right way to back you in your tracks, how to do a burnout, how to prepare for the burnout. Listen, when it comes to no prep and street racing, the most critical part of your street race is your first 5 or 6 feet. 60 foot, obviously. But it's the initial tire crack. It's the initial 5 or 6 feet, because it's the initial 5 or 6 feet that allows your chassis to pitch roll back on the tires, transfer weight, and then allows you to start your boost ramp or your nitrous progressive ramp, or however you're running your car, whether it's naturally aspirated, whatever. But the first 5 or 6 feet in a street race will make or break you. It will also put you in a position to where you have to grab a scramble button if you got to get on the second kit, and you don't want to have to do that. If you want to be successful at street racing, if you want to be successful at these no prep events, you have got to learn the importance of proper burnout technique, proper air pressure, proper ballast, and for the love of God, keep your crew members' dirty feet out of your tire tracks. I can't explain how critical that is. People don't even understand. You don't even understand how dumb it is. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but listen, if you've got somebody that is helping you back up, and they're taking their dirty feet and they're walking in your tire track, I see this all the time. People stand right in front of the driver, and they're literally walking their dirty feet down their tire track, the driver's side tire track, and they can't even see what they're doing because they're looking at somebody behind them, and they're doing smoke signals and doing this and doing that. Piss on all that. I mean, I get it. Some people can't roll their window down or can't open the door and have somebody back them up, but we'll get into that later. We'll get
All
into
right,
that
guys,
later.
that's enough for today. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. Oh, and we need to thank everybody for the support down there. Yeah, well, everywhere. I mean, my God, everywhere we've been, people have been fantastic.
Thank you guys for supporting us. If it wasn't for you guys that come out and get T-shirts, watch the videos, you know, any way you guys can support. That's
I mean, the
greatly
live feeds.
appreciated.
The live feeds. When we were in Texas, when we were street racing at Cash Days at Texas, I've gone back as I've got a little bit of time, and I've watched some of those live feeds. Man, the support, people, you know,
We
betting
try to
on
put
us.
on for Ohio.
Right. We try to rep Ohio and the state that we're from, and really, not really even just Ohio. It's I don't know. It's all the blue collar guys that don't have it like that. You know what I mean? Because we don't have it like that. We're just regular people. We work every day. You know, we don't have the nicest stuff. We've got an old junk S10 and a ratty old Nova, but it's for we're doing this, and we're representing everybody out there that's always wanted to do this kind of racing and travel the country and street race with these guys, and you've never had the opportunity to. Well, we've finally been given an opportunity to go do this stuff. So we represent everybody that's never had this opportunity. That's who we represent, not just Ohio, but for everybody. I don't care what state you're from. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care about any of that shit. If you're down for street racing and you love it like we love it, and you do things for the right reasons, that's another big thing we need to get into the next podcast. I want to talk to Matt Rice about that from DNR Auto. But people that do the right things for the right reasons, that's the people that we represent. That's the people we hope to represent, and we appreciate everybody. More than you guys can know. Chris Hamilton and Kayla Morton and Little Cooper down there in Texas, Mr. Wendell Dunaway. Man, we couldn't have done a lot of this stuff that we're doing. Like the whole trip to North Carolina would have never happened this week if it wasn't for Chris and Kayla, Mr. Wendell. So we'll get into that maybe the next podcast. We'll talk a little bit about Chris and Kayla and our trip down there to see them and visit with them. We didn't get a chance to really talk about it, but next time we will. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's just so much going on. But appreciate everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. I can't believe anybody pays any attention to it and listens to it, but appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.